Hello and welcome to another Game Maker guide. In this guide we will be making the game that you are seeing behind me. It's a simple ship that can move back and forth and shoot the blocks. Very simple, very easy, a good starter game for us to work on here. So I am in a new game here and we're going to click on create a sprite because that's probably the first thing you're going to want to do in most games. We will load the sprite. You can make your own or load it from wherever, but for right now it's much quicker and easier just to load the sprite that I have pre-made. We'll rename it SP Ship. Now we have the SP underscore here to identify that this is a sprite and not an object or a script or something else. And that's important later on when we're coding so that the script that we're actually writing out knows that we're talking about a sprite and not an object. So we'll click OK here and then bring in another sprite. We'll need 3 sprites all together. This one will be our bullet sprite, and the third sprite is going to be the block sprite. So we have all of our sprites now and they're all named properly. Next we're going to create an object. Again, we're going to want to rename this time leave the OBJ. You could really have this be whatever you want. This is just the way that I do it to identify it, so you can do whatever feels comfortable for you. First we're going to want to put the sprite on there to make sure we don't forget that, and for the block actually that's all we need to do. So we'll click OK, then go to create another object. We'll rename this one bullet because it is our bullet, and get the sprite set. Now we want to go over to the control tab over here. Basically everything that I'm going to do will be in the GML, the game maker language, and add event for create, and then drag and drop the execute code block over here, and then we put curly brackets at the top and the bottom, open and close curly brackets, because that's just what we're supposed to do. I really couldn't tell you why. It chops up the code, makes it easier to read, I guess. And for the bullet, we are always going to be shooting it in an upwards direction. The bullet always goes directly up from the ship towards the blocks. So we want to have the direction equal 90. Put a semicolon at the end there. In Game Maker, the direction always starts straight to the right, and then it moves in a counterclockwise direction around 360 degrees. So if you start to the right and you move counterclockwise 90 degrees, you end up facing straight up. That's the direction we want to go in. So the direction equal 90 degrees means that we're going straight up. Then we want our speed to be set. We'll go 10. That's a pretty decent speed. So the speed we saw at the beginning of the game there. And speed is the amount of pixels that the object will travel every step in the direction that you've identified. There are other ways to code this in, but this is the simplest and easiest one, so we'll do that. Then we need to... Oh, you know what? I set the wrong sprite. My bad. SP bullet, not SP block. And now we want to actually add a collision to the SP or to the object block. So go to add event collision block, and we'll drag our code block over here. Open and close curly brackets again. Now, when the bullet hits the block, we want it to destroy itself. So we'll go instance destroy, open and close brackets, semicolon. Then down here we want instance deactivate object. Oop, I put a capital I there. And if you start typing and then pause, there will be a drop-down menu that will give you suggestions on what to enter, which is helpful. So we want instance deactivate object, so we'll click on that and then do open and close brackets. Because this is a collision event with the object block, what we want to do is say other, instance deactivate object other, and then put a semicolon at the end. The other references what the bullet is colliding into. So you can't use other in very many situations, but in the collision event you can. So we want to instance deactivate object the other, so that will destroy the block, and instance destroy will destroy the bullet. So that's what we want there. Now we want one more event, other outside room. Drag a code block, put in the curly brackets, and we want instance destroy here again, because if the bullet goes outside the room up above the window, we want it to destroy itself. Otherwise it'll just keep on moving up there, and there'll be a bunch of bullets randomly going that we can't see, and there's no reason to have them there. So we'll just make sure that the game is clean, and we'll destroy the object when it leaves the room. Click OK. And now we want to create our last object, which is the ship, object ship, and make sure we set the correct sprite this time. Good. Now we want to add an event keyboard. Now there are 3 different keyboard events you can have here. Key pressed means that it will only happen once, when you first press the key down, and then key release, it will happen when you let the key back up. Keyboard, however, will continue to do the same thing over and over and over, so long as the key is still pressed down. So instead of happening once, it will happen until you let the key go. That's what we want right now for movement. So we'll go keyboard and then left, go to the control tab and drag over our script block, curly brackets, and when we press left, we want the ship to move left, and so we'll reference its position in the room. And its position is based on a 2-dimensional grid. So the origin of that grid is the top left of the screen of the window, and it moves right and down. So the X is the horizontal position, left to right. So it moves from the left at 0 all the way to the right of the room. So if your X position is decreasing, you're moving to the left. If your X position is increasing, you're moving to the right. And we have this on the left key, so we want X to minus equal, we'll say 5, semicolon. So X is your current position. We are with the left button of the ship object, and so that's what we're referencing here when we say X is the X of the current object we're in. So that's the ship. X minus equals 5 means that it's relative. It will move 5 left of where it currently is. If you were to simply say X equals 5, the ship would snap to 5 pixels from the left of the screen, and it would stay there. You couldn't move any further left or any right based on just pressing this button. So minus equals 5 is 5 less than what you currently have. And the minus has to be before the equals. If it's after the equals, then it will snap to the negative 5 position. So we'll say OK here, add another event, back to keyboard again, and right. For the sake of time, we'll just copy this and paste it back into the right, and instead of negative equals or minus equals 5, we'll say plus equals 5. We'll say OK. So let's create a room now up here next to the object create. We'll put a ship in there and then press the play button just to show you what we have currently. Waiting for it to load, and here you can move the ship back and forth, right and left, when I press and hold the different arrow keys. So that's good. That's what we want. Now we want to go back to our object ship, and now we add another event. This time we'll go key pressed and not keyboard for actually shooting the bullets. We'll go to key press space, because if it was keyboard, we just continually shoot a ton of bullets, and that's not really the effect we're going for here. Now we want instance create and start with a left bracket, and down here at the bottom of the window you can see it actually shows the function and the different arguments that you use inside of the functions. So you can see that it's instance create x, y, and then object. And so basically the x and y is where the object is actually created. Right now we want it to be created on top of our ship, and so because we're in our ship object here, when we say x and then comma y, then that's going to be on top of the ship, because we're taking the ship's x coordinate and the ship's y coordinate, and that's where we are creating this new object. So another comma, and then we say obj, and if you pause here again, it will show you the different objects that you have because you've used an object. So this is another reason why we don't simply say ship, we have to say obj underscore ship, because up here we have another ship. And so if it was just ship, the script would have a difficult time understanding which ship you actually want. It would make its best guess, but sometimes it will guess incorrectly and you'll have errors in your script. So you always want to put an OBJ and an SP, and you want to identify with prefixes the different items you have here, scripts, sprites, objects, and whatnot. So we want to create a bullet here. We'll close the bracket, semicolon, and then we can now shoot, but we don't have anything to actually shoot. So we want to click OK here, and this is back in our room. Double click over here and you can go into the room, and we want to have a different object, so click anywhere in here and choose the block, and now we want to place several blocks inside the room. Now if you drag, you'll actually move the block with you, so I'm just clicking several times to create several different blocks here. And now we'll click the play button, and if everything worked properly, we should be able to wait for it to load, move the ship back and forth, and actually shoot with the bullets, and now the bullets will destroy the blocks and themselves. So that is your very basic, very simple first game, and the guide on how to make it.